Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I'm your host, AirsoftAL, with a nice little Catholic rosary, and of course, the Beretta that's in the holster, or at least the M12 holster. And I kind of understand why these things weren't exactly liked for the Beretta, because a lot of times when I would dismount it from this, it would actually flick the slide safety. But that's not what we're here to talk about with the Beretta and the M12 combination. No, ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about the Beretta M9A3. CO2 gas blowback, select fire in 177 caliber. Yes, this is an air gun review, not really an airsoft review, but I thought I'd go ahead and talk about this because, in all honesty, it's kind of an interesting gun to say the least. Because, yeah, for those of you who aren't in the know in the gun industry, the M9A3 was rejected in the Army trials when they were kind of deciding whether or not they want to keep the Beretta on or switch over to the SIG, which is the current service handgun for the military. And, I have a lot to say about this, because one of the things I want to talk about is just the design itself. It still retains the same Beretta handling, even though in a more slimmer grip area. The panels themselves, the grips, they're actually much more slim, not as fat as a standard Beretta. The Beretta M9A3 still keeps the same ambidextrous style. The sights themselves are actually rather nice, and it does have a very nice threaded thread adapter here. Still holds the same manipulation of an actual Beretta, but this one does not have a decocker. But you know, you can get what you get. But it does have a nice crisp double action that the Beretta is well known for. It does come on a standard Picatinny rail for all your laser light accessories. Now, I know a lot of you are going to point out that this is an airsoft, and yes, it is technically, but not in the M93A configuration, or M9A3 configuration. What this is in is the black configuration, but it does have a nice little lanyard loop there at least. Now, the Beretta is no... I don't have to explain the Beretta. The Beretta is an icon in of itself, from the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, even today. The Beretta, of course, being very popular in action films, from Lethal Weapon to Bruce Willis, and of course Die Hard, the best Christmas movie of all time. Yes, it is a Christmas movie. But the M9A3 is a enigma, I guess you could say. It's rather interesting, because there are some features on it that I like, and there are some features I don't like. One of the things I particularly don't like is the grips. They're, I don't know, I just don't like the feel of them. Even with gloves on, I still don't like the sort of feel of them. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, the Beretta was also in Boondock Saints, one of the best movies of all time, and in my opinion, criminally underrated. But, I don't know, it might be because I've actually fired a real steel Beretta, and that one was in 40 cal, not 9mm, and I don't know, I guess comparing the two itself, I like that feel of that Beretta M92 better than the Beretta M9A3. I don't know why I keep calling it M93A. I don't. It's one of those things. But again, I can see somewhat of why the military kind of rejected it. It's basically the same thing, outside of course, a polymer body. Yes, the body itself is polymer. Okay. Everything else about this is basically a Beretta. There's not really a lot to say about it, especially the fact that it's CO2 powered. And I do love CO2 considering the environment I'm in the south, where it's drastic in the springtime, where it goes from extremely cold to extremely hot to extremely warm. And then, of course, the summers are ungodly hot. And yes, I know everyone from Florida is going to speak up. Florida does not count. You guys have a wet heat. We have a dry heat. There is a difference. Moving on, though, to the magazine itself. The magazine I do like, but the one thing I really want to critique a bit is the actual vat. This does get easily warped and damaged to where you cannot remove the screw to actually insert the CO2. I wish they could have done better material for it, but it's really whatever. Now, the other thing I have to say, of course, is the distance. This thing is not going to impress you. Granted, the BBs I'm using are a little rusted, a little Crossman-y. These are Crossman BBs, Copperheads 177. So that might be another thing. I don't really have any other BBs I can use for this, so yeah, there's that. But back to the gun itself. Outside, of course, me not liking the grip as a whole, everything else about the gun's actually relatively good. The handling, the manipulation, everything about it's really nice, and the select fire is also a nice little touch. You have a little leather here. When in the downward position, it's in single fire, of course. So, more or less, you know, it's empty, don't worry, the gun is empty and cleared. You hold down the lever and, yeah, basically, has a nice crisp kick to it as well. I really do like that. But if you flip it to the 3 dots on it upward, well, you get a sort of a replica type deal. You still retain the double action, of course, which I do love. The trigger reset is distinctly Beretta. Especially if you do that. Which, let me bring it a little closer just to show you where the reset is. Which, even just letting off the trigger itself, you have a lot of space there before you hit the brake. Now, I'm not going to say it's not a bad gun per se, but it's definitely one I personally, especially for airsoft, if I did get the airsoft version, I'd definitely give you a nice little, I'd give you the FPS, I'd give you the shooting test. But this one, it's just bare bones, basic air gun, a bit priced. It's very pricey. This thing goes for almost $100, if not more, last I checked. Last I checked, this thing was going for almost $100, if roughly 110, 115. They may have bumped the price tag up a bit, and you guys will have to let me know in the comments section, or I'll do a post edit to basically say yes or no. But again, I'm just a little, it's a little weird, honestly. It really is. But taking down the Beretta is simple. You just press the button here, like any other standard Beretta, flip the lever forward, and the whole slide comes forward. In doing so, we can get to the internals, and there is a hop-up unit in this, which is actually kind of cool. Let me show you where the hop-up is. Hop-up is right there. I don't know if you can see it, but don't worry, we'll just push this forward, flip her around a bit, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty. Pull this forward, pull her out, and voila, you get access to your barrel and your hop-up screw, which is right there. Right here is the recoil rod, and they designed it pretty well, and from what I've seen in photos on the real steel, this is the exact same replica of the recoil rod. Let me just bring it a little closer so you can see what I'm talking about. So the recoil rod itself is semi-fluted almost. They definitely cut away on it, but I kind of like that design almost. It lightens it a bit, and I believe this adds to the crispness of the actual recoil, which that's another thing in of itself. The hook on here is something really nice, a little different. I don't know if this is the same on the real steel. I've actually taken apart a Beretta. I've never seen this hook on some of the real steel Beretta recoil rods. You can let me know in the comment section down below to my fellow Beretta owners if this is in fact the same on the A3. But moving on. Now, putting back the Beretta together, it's simple. It really is. Just slide her back on. Make sure that everything is locked into place. Press the button, release, and she's back together. She does have a nice little snappiness on the metal slide itself, and I do like that. It's just really nice. They could have added some serrations to the slide front here, but it's really whatever, and I have no issue with it. I mean, there is no issue actually manipulating the slide itself. Overall, it's not a bad handgun to say, but I personally don't really, I kind of just, it's weird, it really is. It's a little weird to me. I can't describe it. Unless I had another Beretta here with me to actually compare it to, I could give my thoughts of what I'm saying here. But let's go ahead, get the CO2 in here, load up, and we got some barrels down there that I can actually shoot at and show you, and basically tell you what I think of this and feeling with it, shall we? Now the barrels behind me are about roughly 20 feet away, give or take. And I'll be honest, I'm a little bit wary on whether or not this will actually do, because I've got the hop-up screwed all the way in, and even then I'm still a little wary on whether or not it will actually make the cut. So, I have it on semi-automatic. We're going to test the double action. And, yeah, just, Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this thing holds 18 plus 1 in the chamber. So, yeah. Although I would recommend you don't load up all the way because you're going to get this. So let's just go ahead and decock it. And let's see what she does at 20 or so feet, shall we? Going for the straight black barrel. Okay. One next to it. And going for the one all the way in the back. Yeah, they're curving all the way down. That's... yeah. Let's see about quick transition. Yeah, that's, Granted, it could be because the BBs are rusted, and I don't really have any clean BBs to actually use on this, 177 caliber BBs. So, to those of you who do have this and are telling me, hey, mine performed actually better and went past 20 feet, it might be because you were using more clean 177s than me. But either way, it's not a bad little air gun. I mean, hell, I actually use this for critters. I mean, literally, I use this whenever I go out because there are feral cats around my area, and they do go after my chickens. So using this for, like, pest control or, like, taking out some squirrels, going after your bird feeder, or using it for plinking to actually get used to a Beretta platform, and actually using it for target practice, and actually, more or less, handling and manipulation training, I can see this actually working out pretty well. Anything past 20 feet or where you're actually plinking from, I honestly couldn't see that. I honestly can't see it doing well in my case, but for you, maybe a little better if you use clean BBs and not rusted ones. Aside from that, though, it actually is a really nice little handgun, but I would not tell you to get it for the price tag unless you actually had the money. This is the big thing about this, is that there are other Beretta gas blowbacks out there for cheaper price tags. Many in the M9A3 configuration, many in the Cougar configuration, or Cheetah, whichever one you want to go with, Cougar, Cheetah. There are a lot of other handguns in the Beretta style out there on the market right now that you can get for relatively affordable price tags. You can go to Walmart actually and get a Springer variant for about 60 bucks. And it's still the same configuration of a Beretta. Granted, minus the gas blowback functionality. Again, my forte is not air guns, but more airsoft, so again, I'm kind of stepping out of my comfort zone on this. But this does run on a somewhat airsoft configuration. I mean, hell, the magazine itself is essentially what you would find in an airsoft magazine, just configured for 177 caliber. So if you really wanted to, you could actually buy this, keep the lower, completely replace the upper with a 6mm BB upper, and use it, because the nozzle itself, from what I'm looking at, actually looks like a standard gas blowback nozzle you would see on any gas blowback pistol in airsoft. So again, I guess there are perks to it to where you can have a tan lower with the tan grips, but again, it's up to you whether or not you want to do that. I personally won't do that unless I really want to sort of test to see if this is in fact cross-compatible with airsoft uppers and airsoft slides and barrels, because I am genuinely curious. But either way, I guess this is where I gotta say, where does this fall in my categories? Because this is an airsoft, my categories are going to be a little bit different, but in terms of the price tag, just the way it's set up, everything of that, I gotta say that the big factor in the score is the cap. The metal they used for this is not durable metal, and it can warp and be destroyed easily, and make it to where the magazine is essentially unusable unless you completely take the thing apart, and even then, I don't think you can. So, for that, the Beretta M9A3 by Umarex USA, fully licensed Beretta core, gets no more, no less than a 8 out of 10. It's a good buy. It really is. If you're getting it for plinking, or if you're getting it to essentially for like pest control, or to handle little critters in your garden or on your farm, such as myself here, then yeah, no, this is actually good for that. In terms of any serious style, maybe you're using it in an air gun competition or anything of that nature, unless the engagement distances are less than 20 feet, I'm going to tell you now, this ain't going to do very well for you, or at least in my case, because once again, I am using rusted BBs and not clean BBs, I guess I could say. But if the handgun has worked for you, let me know in the comments section, and let me know your impressions of the air gun variant of the Beretta M9A3. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been AirsoftAL, the common man's airsofter who reviews air guns to let you know if they're good for pest control and or critters. And would you kindly consider liking and subscribing? And if you like our channel and want to help out, consider donating to the PayPal down below. Now, I know a lot of you are probably going to be asking for a link to buy this yourself. I'm going to tell you now, that ain't happening because YouTube does, in fact, nuke those comments. Yeah, policies and all that. Either way, though. Thank you all for watching. As always, I've been AirsoftAL, and I will see you lovely, lovely people in the next video. Till next time. Later.